Welcome back to Turning Point Tonight, where together we are charting the course of America's cultural comeback. My name is Jobob. Thanks so much for sticking with us. Let's check in with our Turning Point White House correspondent, Monica Page, at the White House. Monica, a lot going on today, but again, I repeat myself because you're at the White House and there's a lot going on every single day. The Italian Prime Minister just came and went. Tell us, what is she saying? What are the tariffs looking like for her and the rest of Europe? What's going on?
Yep, another busy week here at the White House. Of course, we're in Holy Week, so a lot is happening. President Trump wants to get as much in as he possibly can before Easter weekend, of course. But Italian Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni, like you just mentioned, paying a visit to the president this afternoon, talking all things tariffs. She came here on behalf of the European Union, to which President Trump has placed a 20% tariff on the EU. And as we know, 2 days after he placed that tariff on them and on all the other countries, he implemented a 90-day pause thanks to China. So now I believe that talks and the pause will resume sometime in July, about July 9th, I believe is the date that the tariffs will resume. But Giorgia Meloni says that she is confident that President Trump and herself can come up with a plan before the pause is over. So coming on behalf of the European Union here, working out some kind of deal with the president. Of course, they have a great relationship, as we know. So very positive. Giorgia Meloni just left here just moments ago here, but it's around 2:45 p.m. Eastern time right now. I gave her a little wave as she left, and I saw her hand in the motorcade. So I think she waved to us back. I was the only one waving at her because I'm a big fan. But it was very positive from what we understand. And stay tuned for the news coming out of the European Union, I suppose, from here on out.
Yeah, well, congrats on the wave. And that's all very important reporting. Thank you for doing that. And now to the nitty
Yes.
gritty stuff. The New York Times is big mad about the
Oh,
internal, I guess, WWE style jockeying for who gets into the White House. And, just so viewers know, in order to be a big time reporter at the New York Times, you probably have to come from money because you probably have to intern at the New York Times, which means living in Manhattan, which is very expensive. And so basically, they get to pick the winners and losers, but now they're very mad that the Trump administration is letting new media in. Tell us what's going on that front.
well, we got two little media blips on behalf of Turning Point, and not only an article, but also an Instagram reel highlighting and
Hmm.
detailing who exactly is who in the new media spot, and who's been getting a lot of traction. It was interesting because the New York Times article was interactive, so the more you scroll, you can kind of see, new pictures or videos come up as you're scrolling through, and they actually included a time lapse showing me sitting on the left-hand side of the briefing room, just standing there talking to my colleagues about 50 minutes before the briefing even starts, kind of trying to pin it as though I'm desperate to get a spot in the briefing room when I'm just happy to be there and get a question on behalf of the American people. Like, sorry that I'm doing my job? Question mark. So that was pretty interesting. And then they made a whole Instagram reel showing one of my questions, as well as some of my other colleagues, kind of trying to say that I'm echoing right-wing voices, and they played a soundbite from Ash Wednesday where I asked the question and I prefaced it in a way where I presented some facts. Not one Democrat senator voted to keep men out of women's sports,
Mhm.
and apparently that's a right-wing talking point? Question mark. So I'm a little. I mean, it's a simple Google search will show you that not one Democrat senator voted to keep men out of women's sports. So clearly, I don't know where they were trying to go with that. But hey, listen, no, there's no such thing as bad press. Am I right?
Yeah, and it's fascinating too. The New York Times specifically did a big profile on Charlie Kirk, is now mentioning Turning Point in their recent pieces, and I feel like they think they're like, oh yeah, we're gonna get him here, and in reality, we're like, hey, cool, look at we're in the New York Times. This is fantastic. We're a threat now, which is fantastic. And by threat, I mean obviously in the business sense, not at all in the physical sense, because they're gonna take that out of context. Monica Page,
Yes.
Turning Point White House correspondent. Thanks so much for joining us. Have a great Easter weekend.
Thanks. You too, Joe Bob. I appreciate it.
Thank you. The interesting takes that the New York Times is officially taking, and so many libs taking some weird stances. The hills that they are dying on are fascinating. I think this next thing that we're going to talk about is encapsulated best by a tweet that I think Charlie said, I hope you find someone who loves you like Democrats love illegal criminal gangbangers who beat their wives. Let's bring our panel back. Adrienne and Gavin are here. This Maryland father story has exploded to new heights the more and more we find out about him. Yesterday, the Bill Malugin of Fox News put out the domestic violence complaint that his wife filed. saying some pretty awful things. It referenced, she said that their baby started to cry. She was putting pressure on him, and the reaction was he punched her in the face, scratched her eye, left her bleeding. And she also said at some point, at this point, I was afraid to even be close to him. Now, Democrats were already in a weird spot defending a guy who was in the country illegally, affiliated with a very murderous, dangerous gang in MS-13. Now it turns out that he could have possibly been beating his wife. Uh, all of that aside, one of the Maryland senators did actually go down to El Salvador. Play this clip here of something that's not going to age well.
I'm here at the airport. I'm about to board my flight for San Salvador. The goal of this mission is to let the Trump administration, to let the government of El Salvador know that we are going to keep fighting to bring Abrego Garcia home until he returns to his family. We are going to keep fighting because this is a miscarriage of justice. What bullies do is they begin by picking on the most vulnerable.
Adrienne, is there some irony there with him saying we're protecting the most vulnerable? Oh, like his wife that filed a domestic violence complaint? Is that what we're talking about?
Yeah, where are the feminists? They just always seem to disappear, poof, be gone in so many issues. But immigration laws exist for a reason. And this is what happens when they're ignored. The left calls this man a father. I would hate to see their definition of a model citizen. This is just, they're always fighting the wrong battles.
Yeah, Gavin, Stephen Miller at the White House the other day, I just brought up, I think, a fantastic and kind of snarky, but also probably very serious. Like, okay, so let's just play this out. We bring this guy back. We're just going to deport him again. He falls in the category of a terrorist group, this is MS-13, and is in the country illegally. What do you want us to do? Do you want us to waste taxpayer money on the flight? Should they do that just to prove a point? Just bring him back and then deport him to the same place?
I mean, look, the optics of that would be funny, but I think it will drag us down in the mud, and we have a lot of people that need to get out of this country, a lot of violent criminals to be deported, many more Maryland men or New Jersey moms or whatever other euphemism they're going to use for a lot of people here that are illegal, and many of whom are members of violent satanic gangs. I mean, this is what happens when we have a Democrat Party that's been taken over wholesale, frankly, by these theater kids who think they're living their own civil rights movement. They're trying to pick all these anti-heroes to be heroes. So this wife beater, this abuser, this member at a high rank of MS-13 has now become the hill that they want to die on. I just don't really understand what they're thinking. Part of me actually thinks that the Trump administration knew this about the Maryland man from the beginning, but withheld it and let the Democrats walk into this trap. I don't know if they were that sneaky about it, but either way, this is political suicide for the Democrats, and I hope they continue to double down on this nonsense.
Gavin, I will say I'm not a huge fan of you taking the high road when I want to get down in the mud and play funny practical jokes on the Democrat Party by sending this guy back and forth. But speaking of people on the Democratic Party that aren't making their party look good, remember Letitia James? She's the Attorney General of New York, said nobody is above the law. Well, when she was saying that, it looks like there's allegedly there's a chance that she was committing fraud, and not just one time, numerous times. There has been a report into the DOJ saying in the 80s she co-signed on a bill or on a home loan with her dad, who she listed as her husband. I don't know, maybe that's fraud. Maybe there was some incestuous relationship going on there. I have no idea. In 2001, she tried to say a 5-unit complex was a 4-unit, which obviously gives you mortgage advantages. In 2023, she tried to purchase a home in Virginia and said, this is my primary residence, even though New York state law says, well, okay, well, the Attorney General actually has to live in New York, so that can't be your permanent residence. Gavin, so she's obviously going to cry, well, this is a political prosecution. Is that a fair defense for her, or is this like, this is just you get what's coming to you because you rode on your high horse and now you're in this position all of your own doing?
Well, first, I'd like to say I think we finally found the pathology for Letitia James, is that she is a failed real estate investor, and she's incredibly jealous of President Trump, who is a successful real estate investor. And I think that was the origin story of her politicized prosecutions and persecution of President Trump. So I think we got to the root cause here, that she just was not happy with the state of her largely fraudulent portfolio. But look, I think this is rich. I think this is the Democrat Party in a nutshell: incompetence, corruption, and projecting their own crimes onto other people. She engaged in a litany, it seems, of mortgage fraud over the years, something akin to what she was trying to go after President Trump for. I think she knew the crime very well. It was an obscure crime that she went after President Trump for, a bookkeeping error at best. I think she should face the same standard of justice. I think she should be dragged into a courtroom in Lower Manhattan. I think she should be prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law. And if we don't do that, we're really not going to get away from this sort of tit for tat, politicized legal system. We need to show that there are consequences and repercussions. And I think this is a perfect example to make an example out of someone. And I think it should be the failed real estate investor, Letitia James.
Yeah, and there is just seemed to be like overwhelming evidence. A reporter from the Daily Caller News Foundation went to those homes in Virginia that she purchased, and turns out she doesn't actually live there, so it wasn't her primary residence to begin with. Adrienne, I hate to bring you down into the mud here, but indulge me if you will. How long do you think before Letitia James plays the race card of this? They're prosecuting me because I'm black, black woman, and that's why. Not because I broke the law. That the only reason is because I'm a black woman.
Yeah, that'll be probably mid next week. The irony here is crazy. I think she just really wanted to know what a fraud case felt like from the inside. There's no other explanation. I secretly hope, I wish that President Trump, and I don't know that he does, but a great idea if he's listening, he should get a champagne bottle that's gold encrusted with these people's names, on them, right? And then he can pop the champagne as soon as this comes full circle, because this is not the first time that it's happened. But it's very clear what she's done here has been plotted and planned. So there's no sympathy here.
So taking a page out of Dave Portnoy's book, and also you heard it here first. The over/under line on Letitia James playing the race card is about Wednesday of next week. You can bet on DraftKings or Polymarket or whatever your betting options of choice. Obviously, that's not true. We're making a joke. But Gavin, Adrienne, hey, thanks so much for joining us. Really appreciate you taking the time and sharing some laughs. We'll have you back as soon as we can.
Thanks so much.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you. Coming up next is a great clip from Alex Clark's Culture Apothecary podcast. Don't go away. We'll be right back after the break.